Hey everyone, welcome to UFO Hub livestream. Today's guests are going to be Ron Meyer and Ellen Megargle. And I'm very excited to talk to you guys today and to interview them as well because this almost didn't happen. Because just roughly about a half hour ago, I was stuck in a ditch, hit an ice patch, and there was nothing I could do. So anyway, it got worked out. I'm here now, so I'm glad I didn't have to do another cancellation, which I would hate to do anyway. So later on today, or I should say maybe about 40 minutes into it, we're going to start a Q&A. So for those of you who would like to ask the guests some questions, you can simply put 3 asterisks before your question in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch, or you can download the Telegram app and talk to the guests directly and ask some questions that way. All the links for the Telegram app are in the description below. And so about 40 minutes should be enough time for you to install it in case you don't have it. Other than that, both of them are going to be speakers at the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference this year. That's going to be in April from 8th till 10th. And you will have an opportunity to win 2 tickets if in the comments, if you put in any kind of comment with hashtag Ozark 2022. And March 9th, I will be using a automatic or an algorithm to basically pick a winner. And you could be the lucky one. So again, like the video, comment, hashtag Ozark 2022, and good luck. If you don't want to wait and you're not sure that you'll be able to win, there's always the link in the description below where you can just go and register for your tickets. And it's roughly about a month from now that the conference will be happening, so it'll give you enough time to get the hotel ready and figure out travel arrangements as well. So also, as always, in the description, I have Alan's IMDb and not Alan's, I'm sorry, Ron's IMDb page and some of other trailers and films that they wanted to share with all of you. So please do check those out and see what they're all about. Okay, so welcome all of you. I can see the chat room already filling up. So it's the first time that I'm actually going to have 2 guests at the same time, as most of you know that watch this often. So I'm hoping everything goes without a hitch, but we'll see what happens. So let me bring in Ron and Alan. Welcome. How are you both?
Howdy. Double
Hi.
trouble tonight, huh?
Right. Well, I'm glad we're able to make this happen. And I guess I always love I initially was thinking about doing that, but I didn't have a kind of a drive or a need for it. And then when this came up, I was like, this is perfect opportunity to finally get off my butt and do it. So I'm glad it looks like the system is handling it. So
Looks like it's working.
yeah. Well, so what I wanted to do is I figured let's start with Ron. If you could please give us a little bit of your background information, and then we'll go over to Alan.
So I've been in the production entertainment business since the 70s. I started in public television. I transitioned in the 80s to acquiring a small distribution company and became a minor player in the whole growth of cable. Did Discovery's first feature film, Discovery Communications. Did a lot of series. I've been doing a lot of educational material. And about 5-6 years ago, I was hired to produce a series for the largest independent DVD distributor on what the phenomena of Bigfoot. And that took me down a path of getting quite interested in the paranormal, and subsequently I realized that a lot of people who had experiences of Bigfoot or claimed they did, that they had this characteristic that there was something really strange about the occurrences of Bigfoot, something you could describe as paraphysical or not quite the hairy beast that most people were searching. And at one point, one of the people I interviewed said, well, I think Bigfoot is some sort of alien kind of creature with a lot of unusual paranormal capabilities. And so I had to then move forward and do a movie, documentary feature called The Bigfoot-alien Connection Revealed, to explore that possibility. What's that about? What might it be, that the connection between Bigfoot extraterrestrials, and in the process of producing the Chasing Bigfoot, this original series, I met Alan at the Bigfoot Ohio conference, and then my daughter was helping produce the series. They met and fell in love, and then I dragged Alan from being a creature of chasing hairy creatures in the woods to a paranormal guy, and now he's did the flip and he's on the other side.
Great, thank you, Ron. So, Ellen, what do you have to say?
Yeah, so I've been doing paranormal investigating for almost 20 years now. The last 13 years, I've been doing Bigfoot investigating. I worked with the BFRO in Ohio, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, for a number of years. I was the AV guy actually for the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. That's again where I met Ron and moved out to Colorado, and now I'm making films with him. But yeah, I've been sort of into the subject since I was a kid, and it interests me, and now I'm having my own experiences, and it's been a lot of fun, but also very interesting, and I feel like we're slowly unraveling the mystery of the world, but we'll see.
Great, thank you for that. Well, so without getting, I guess, into too much of the information and giving away too much, because obviously there's still a presentation that you guys are going to give at the Ozark conference, can you, at least one of you, whichever one would like to start this off regarding, this the very title of Opening an Alien Portal. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I could start that out. In the production of the Bigfoot-alien connection film, we came across 3 situations or places that we began to label as paranormal hotspots. One was in Dulce, New Mexico, a very famous place where a lot of paranormal activity was going on. And then there's one up in Montana run by Joe Hauser. Is it the House of Mystery?
Yep.
Is that? Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's a very extraordinary one that's in Oregon. It was called the Owl Moon Lab, and they had every form of paranormal activity going on, from UAPs to Bigfoot encounters, gifting, unusual objects showing up, a shed where they could record sounds when nothing was in there. It sounded like people were going crazy. So, and then we hooked up with Tom Powell, who was one of the early proponents of this idea that there are places on the planet where where paranormal activities are occurring over a period of time, and there are many of them, and they keep growing. And then, of course, the most famous one is the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. So we had the idea that let's see if we could do a movie about paranormal hotspots. And we created a movie called The Alien Contact in the Rockies, in which we did 2 things. We looked at one possibility of how one was growing, and the other was, can we create one ourselves? And we did.
Interesting. And so was during this time, you said Ellen was with you?
Alan's been my main paranormal guy. He's kind of become a sensitive. That was one of the other things we learned, is that there are some people who seem to be magnets for this kind of phenomenon. I think that's been historically forever. That, whether they were religious encounters back in the day, and some of them actually started religions. And of course, there's been a lot of reports of famous scientists who had these kind of contact experiences, and which gave them downloads of information, like Newton and Einstein and a number of the quantum physicists, and even Wallace, the co-founder of evolution. So yeah.
So Alan's. Oh, I'm sorry.
Alan's becoming one of those.
Well, so Ellen, were you interested at all in Bigfoot, or was that paranormal your main area? Or actually, was it the other way around? You were Bigfoot and turned paranormal?
So I was doing paranormal for about 20 years, and then the last 13 years I've been doing Bigfoot investigating. So one sort of led me to the other, and then Bigfoot's consumed a lot of my time now, but I still dabble in other things for sure.
And so,
And they're all sort of kind of coming together as one. And that's probably what we'll talk about here today too. So it all fit together for me. The puzzle is coming together slowly, but it's making sense to some degree.
well, now is a good opportunity maybe to start out with that and see how those two coincide.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can do one thing. We can talk about, we're doing a series called The Paranormal Highway, where we investigated 5 of these potential paranormal hotspots. And I was just completing the edit on the one that was done in Wisconsin. And we went to investigate the Beast of Bray Road. Have you heard of that?
No, I have not.
It's kind of like a dogman, maybe a dogman form of Bigfoot, and it's been known since the 30s. It's a creature that takes the form of kind of a human dog hybrid. I don't think it's ever done any damages, but many people have seen it in this one area. And so we went there hoping that maybe we could find, we were looking for patterns of paranormal, what would show up. And in this particular place, we had a number of very interesting things happen. We got access to basically a field next to Bray Road. Bray Road is a very short road out of Elkhorn, Wisconsin, and it's so popular that the people who live along it, the farmers, don't like you. So if you stop your car, they'll come out and yell at you and do even more, chase you off with a gun or something. But we had access to 35 acres right next to the road, and we were going to see what we could find. And we had all sorts of paranormal things happen, including there was this one place along the hedgerow where the owner of the property said this is where activity goes on, and he wouldn't go in there. So of course that was where we wanted to do our investigation. He had previously showed us 5 sets of prints, kind of like Bigfoot prints, but they're actually more dog-like prints of different sizes, and they don't match anything that's known in the normal lexicon of animal footprints. They have more pads and more toes than any animal that would be cruising around there. But he also had one of the most remarkable trail cam pictures of UFOs. You like UFOs? Yeah, are you familiar with the pencil-shaped ones that are somewhat well known?
Yes, usually, from my experience, people, often give him the name of motherships.
Okay, so over this place that we call our sweet spot, he had captured a sequence of images of pencil-shaped UFOs beautifully that would change configuration, and the number would change. You would go from 2 to 3 to 6, and each time the trail cam grabbed a shot, they would be in a different position, and the numbers would change. So this all pointed to this one particular area that we set up our investigation at, hoping to contact something. And in the process of contacting, one of the things that often occurs is a felt sense of something, a presence, not quite clear what it is. Sometimes it's just a feeling, but other times there's sounds in the brush, or like somebody's walking beside you, but you can't see it. It's not visual. So that happened. You could talk about that area, that kind of phenomena, which is another one of these paranormal hotspot type of phenomena, Alan.
Yeah, I mean this happened in a lot of places that we went to where, I've spent countless hours in the woods, camping and doing Bigfoot investigating and hiking, and I used to volunteer as a naturalist in Ohio, and just a lot of time in the woods. And I got to the point where when something was about to happen or was happening, I usually knew right away that something was different. And a lot of times it was, you could hear something walking or pacing, or sometimes it throws something at you or drops something, or there's just noises basically that don't belong. And then it gives you this sort of almost hair standing up on the back of your neck kind of feeling, almost like if you were to walk down the street and just open someone's front door and walk into their house uninvited. It feels like that. It feels like you don't belong there.
Or it could feel like you do belong there.
Or it could feel, yeah, that's true.
So the feeling you had, in Oregon was very, very welcoming, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, for sure.
So that's one kind of paranormal phenomena that often occurs in these hotspots. Another one is that somehow or another, whatever is at play, and I call it at play, is that they'll mess with our electronics in some way. In the instant we have in Wisconsin, for some reason, Alan's got a new camera, and at a critical time, it acted like it was performing some function, and he couldn't turn it off. And so that happens at every place that we go. There's at least one or two examples of something messing with electronics, which is pretty inexplicable. But then also at Wisconsin, we had to cross the field from one side to another that night, and our host Jay Wachokin, who's quite a well-known Bigfoot investigator and a guy who wants the truth, took out his laser as we were crossing the field, and there was me and the cameraman had driven around to the other side and turned off our car, and at the spot we call our sweet spot, there was a self-illuminating light, and Jay pulled out his laser and touched that self-illuminating spot with his laser beam. Alan was with him. He saw him do that. And then later, when we got back and looked at the footage, I called Jay up and said, well, what were you doing pointing at what were you thinking while you made us turn on the camera and you touched that light? And he had no recollection of what had happened. His memory was completely wiped out along that whole trek across the acreage that from one side to the other. And he also did an interview, non-camera interview. He told Alan he wanted to do a little thing. And he talked about having fear and flight, kind of mumbling around. Didn't remember that either. So there's another paranormal activity going on. And in some places that's called sizzling, where something paranormal kind of messes with your cognitive ability. We had that example where Alan had that example where we opened up the portal on our land in the Rockies. And then to top it all off, when we got to the paranormal hotspot, the sweet spot, we first of all, we took out our thermal and we got this intense area of cold, which later we learned is an indication that it's a portal and something's coming through. And that was one of the big examples in the Skinwalker Ranch series. So there's another paranormal activity. This is all in one evening. And I think I was just looking at the footage. It was a summer night or early fall night, and I think the temperature was about 50 degrees, and there was this cold spot right where we were, right above where things were happening, that was at freezing, 32 degrees. And then the boys had this feeling of while we were getting the thermal, the cameraman and Jay had this sense of something moving like Alan just described. And then, so we said, okay, let's just walk away for a moment and we come back. And then we came back and tell us what you saw, Alan.
Yeah, so we had to put a paranormal device in the woods that was taking measurements, and it would audibly alarm if there was any changes in temperature or EMF or anything like that. So I was going back in to retrieve it, and when I had a headlamp on, and when I sort of leaned over to pick up the device, these two red eyes illuminated from just inside the wood line, maybe, would you say, 5-6 feet from where I was. And whatever it was fairly small, but it was sort of playing peekaboo behind this tree, back and forth, and it kind of would move off and then come back and look and come back and look. And that went on for several minutes while we just stood there with lights on watching it.
Actually went on for 12 minutes.
Did it really? Wow. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And we're talking, all four of us are talking. We're making a lot of noise. We're shining lights on it. And it had a fairly elongated body. I don't know if I ever told you that, Ellen. It had large ears.
Oh, wow.
So it was probably, if it stood up, it was always on all fours as far as we could tell. But if it stood up, it would have been about 2.5 to 3 feet tall, which to some, the owner of the property said that corresponded to one of the 5 cryptids that he thinks he's witnessed on the property. So this is an example of what can happen in a paranormal hotspot in one night.
You said that cold chill, is it always an indicator of a portal, or are there any other kind of things that's usually a sign for?
Well, have you done any ghost investigating?
Twice only, but it was just on behalf of someone else that was kind of doing the guided tour with some kind of, devices and whatnot, and seeing what can be picked up.
I mean, I haven't done any ghost investigations. Alan's done some, but it's reported quite frequently that when an apparition appears in some way, there's a burst of cold energy that comes over.
Right.
The
Yeah, but what was different about this was we were outside, we were in the woods, and we could visibly see with the thermal this sort of circular, area that was just a lot colder than everything else around it. So that's what made it unique. It wasn't sort of like a passing chill or something like you might get with a paranormal case. It was clearly something that was somewhat stabilized and consistent in this area, for at least for the time that we were there.
And we had encountered one other of these on a property in the state of Washington, another area where it was a warm summer night. I mean, a lot warmer than was in Wisconsin. And here's this spot, relatively small. You could walk into it and feel the cold. And when we put our thermal on it, there was this deep, dark area, which is the way a cold shows up. A temperature drop of 40, 50 degrees, isolated. And then if you watch the Skinwalker Ranch series, their greatest activity in the last season was at this outpost shed where maybe the ranchers stored stuff out in the field. They had a lot of activity. In the middle of that was the same phenomenon called an extreme cold spot right in the middle of the action. So the speculation is that that's an opening to the other side, if you want to say, or a lifting of the veil in which something has come through.
Oh, Ron, I don't want to change the subject, just something what you said earlier. You said dog man? Did I hear it correctly?
Yeah, one of the terms.
No, yeah, I wasn't gonna go into info. Just wanted to clarify. You asked me, said, did you hear about a dog man? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, the Beast of Bray Road is described as a dog man.
Right. Okay. Yes, actually, I've heard of that. I'm sorry, the way you said it didn't sound familiar, and then later on, as you were talking, I was like, oh, he said dog man. Yes, we actually had several guests that are mainly, I guess you can say, Bigfoot researchers, and they often have brought up Dogman in all of their research and whatever else they found. So I've come across it, don't have any personal experience, but then again, I'm pretty sure not a lot of people do. And so regarding this connection, right, between alien and Bigfoot and whatnot, is that something that's drawn from just this kind of like many years of research, and you go, okay, these two things could be related, or was there something more that kind of put them two and two together?
Well, the first thing that drew my attention to it was reports of many strange things relating to a Bigfoot sighting. And a lot of them weren't exactly seeing a Bigfoot. It's these other kinds of occurrences that are interpreted as somehow being brought about by Bigfoot. For example, eye shine, the that felt sense of has been attributed to Bigfoot. People have actually seen Bigfoot disappear and merge into an orb or a tree. And of course, the most common thing is that the footprints that people find seem to, and this was the case at our site as well, where footprints, there's maybe 2, 3 footprints that start nowhere and go nowhere. They 2, 3 steps and then they're gone. There's no long trail or track of a Bigfoot. Nobody's ever come across. It's always 1 or 2 footprints, which would indicate that they kind of pop into existence and then take a couple steps. People see them and go back to wherever they came from. You think of any other the aspects that the smell, Alan? Talk about that.
Yeah, sometimes there's reports of a sort of a body odor or skunk type smell that comes with some of these sightings. I've smelled, it smells like an animal to me. I haven't really smelled the really pungent smell, other than maybe Arkansas. We had some incident there that had a smell to it.
So there's a whole collection of these associated events that people say in some way is Bigfoot. And of course, there are people who are psychics or sensitives we come across that saying they're in direct contact with Bigfoot, that they can communicate in sort of a telepathic way, not see them, but still feel their presence and talk to them. And in fact, we were at the Owl Moon Lab, which is the one I mentioned earlier. We ran into a couple who said they opened a portal on their land and that they had some sort of telepathic contact with their Bigfoot, along with the other usual rock throwings, bangings, footprints, and so on. And so we asked them, at least Alan asked him, how did you do it? How did you open a portal? So it occurred to us, what the heck, can we open one? So we did. You want to talk a little bit about how we got going?
Yeah, so what they told us was that if they're in the area and this is a possibility, that we'd be able to identify this area by using divining or dowsing rods. So these copper pieces of tubing that are bent over. So I had some, and we started to use those. My wife Anna is pretty good with them, so we did some tests with that, and it seemed to work. It seemed to be pointing us in a direction, as Ron always says, that we didn't want to go, because we have to cross the river and climb up the whole other side of this mountain and things like that. But eventually I did make my way over there and followed these dowsing rods up. They kept, pointing to this particular area, and I got up to the top, and there was a outcropping of rocks. And as I walked around, the dowsing rods kept pointing towards the tallest, biggest rock in the middle. That was the area that it pointed to, and it happened to be the only place that I really couldn't get to. I mean, it was too high to really climb up there. So on a subsequent visit, I was able to get up there with some effort. And when I got up to the top of this rock, I was really shocked to find that there was a perfect circle, maybe a foot in depth, carved out of the top of the rock. I took some measurements, and I didn't really get any unusual magnetic fields or anything like that at that time, but it was really interesting to find that at the top of that.
And then coming back or going there, you got a bit sizzled too.
Yeah, as I was heading up there, I got probably maybe a third, close to a halfway up there, and I got this very sharp pain in the side of my face, right in my cheek, going up into my eye, and everything got blurry, and my eyes were watering, and I had intense pain, and I couldn't really see, but I kept walking and trying to get up there. It was almost like something was trying to stop me. And after maybe, it felt like forever, but maybe a couple minutes or so, it just went away, and I was able to get up there. It was a really weird and strange sensation. Like I said, it really felt like something was trying to stop me from going up there.
And then the other indication that something wanted to play was one of the early spring days we were on our property. By the way, we own 40 acres of land next to Rocky Mountain National Park, so we're in holders in the forest and right close to the big park. So we have the full complement of the ecology of the big park, and along with all its animals. But one spring, there had been a snowfall, and we came across some prints that were quite interesting. And they seemed to one set of prints of one creature that originated in an anthill, on an anthill that was exposed above the snow. I guess it had melted a little easier, but it was like the footprints originated from the anthill, and they started walking off to the north. And Alan, who's a little more robust than I am, decided to track the prints and see where they would go.
Yeah, so they went straight up the side of the mountain. It was fairly rocky. It was very difficult for me to get up there. And when I got up to the top, I was able to pick up the trail, and I followed them not much further to the base of this tree. Maybe it was like a pine tree, maybe 5 inches in diameter, and then the footprints just stopped. So the tree was probably maybe 10, 15 feet tall. So I looked up expecting to see something, and there wasn't anything there. So I looked all around the area and tried to find where these footprints maybe picked up and went out or left, and there was no sign anywhere. So they just went to this tree and disappeared. It blew my mind.
So they started from nothing and disappeared into nothing. It's pretty typical of what happens with Bigfoot prints. But we're not saying that was Bigfoot. Maybe it was a dog man kind of creature. Could have been something, could have been anything. The footprints were not that distinct because there had been some melting, and they weren't fresh prints in fresh snow by any means. So that kind of boosted our belief that something paranormal, paraphysical wanted to interact with us. So that's what we're looking for, is interaction. And so after we met this couple, they suggested two things to do. One was to find some unique way each time we went to our land to introduce ourselves or reintroduce ourselves, or create a situation where we say, we're here, we want contact. We want to know what you're about, so reach out to us. And Alan had bought this drum that we decided, somebody had told us to beating a drum three times in a row was a way of announcing that we're here and we want to play.
So,
So we did.
let me ask you, I'm sorry, just to clarify real quick. So was this portal then there, and with the help of those rods, you were able to identify it? Or did I miss something here? Were you specifically doing something to I guess, make that portal appear?
So in this case, I can only speculate. I believe it was already there, but by the time I actually found it, I don't believe it was active. There was no signs of any energy or anything that was coming through it. So, quite a bit of time had passed from when we first started playing around with this idea till I actually got up there. So I imagine during that time it was inactive or became inactive.
Was
So
it the
it's
act of
almost
you
like-
looking that it maybe activated it?
That's what we think.
It's possible, yeah.
It's a good possibility that there's some central magnet at these places that draws this activity to the area and to the people who show up there, particularly to kind of like the host of the paranormal hotspot. And so we wanted to, after a few times of going there and announcing that we're coming, and we tried the idea of gifting. Are you familiar with that concept? It's another way of not only seeing or contacting, but interacting with some alien force. Is that you put something out and hope that if you go away, it'll interact and move it around, or give you some indication that there's something there, and it wants to let you know that it can play a little bit with you.
Right, I'm
So we do
familiar
that.
with that. Yep. Okay. And so, I mean, can you maybe tell us a little bit more? What was it like? What was the interaction like?
Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, so I mean, I won't give too much away here, but we basically had a feather. I don't remember what kind of feather it was, but it was a bird feather, and we stuck it in this sort of milk jug kind of bottle with a small opening at the top, just enough to sort of feed the feather in. And then we took that bottle with the feather inside and we tucked it under this grouping of rocks where no one would find it. It was hidden. And we came back a few times, and on the maybe the third time, second or third time that we came back, the bottle had been disturbed. It was laying on its side, and the feather was gone. Um, so we got pretty excited about that. And as I was sort of looking around the area down near a little bit further away from there, a couple feet, there was this crack in the rocks, and the feather was sticking in there, perfectly sticking in the crack of rocks. So to us, it was an indication that maybe we'd been contacted.
Right.
It's
I've
something
heard,
right.
right.
Go
I'm sorry. I
ahead.
just wanted to add, because a lot of the people I talk to that concentrate a majority of the time on going out in the field and doing Bigfoot research, they've often reported about weird things like sticks being aligned and set up in certain ways.
Yeah.
Stuff they would leave behind. It would just be stacked in this unnatural way where somebody was actually interacting with it instead of just kind of being blown over by wind.
Yeah, that's a popular theory among Bigfoot investigators. I've witnessed that myself. Um, Most of them I'm not too convinced of, but there's definitely been, I can count on one hand, so not many, but some where you really look at it and go, that does not look right. That does not
Right.
look like something natural happened. So I've definitely seen that before.
So maybe so this was in the summer that we got this indication. So going to our land takes we have to drive up the mountain, and it's no simple thing to do. And then we're a locked gated community with double gates, and nobody can get in. So it's very unpopulated, and maybe there's a couple people that have houses that they live in all around. So there, this place where the feather was, and it moved out of the bottle is probably about 40 feet off the road, wouldn't you say, Alan? Something like that,
Yeah,
or maybe a little more than that.
it's
So it's
off
kind
the
of,
road and down a little bit. It sort of starts to go down the mountainside a little bit.
and it's something you couldn't really see from the road.
Yeah.
But so right next to where the where we had tucked the feather and got the feather out of the bottle, it was in the fall, and we came up there, and right there, dropped it as if it were regifted, was a mutilated deer, which freaked us out.
Yeah.
No head, no blood, no organs, untouched otherwise.
Right.
Some some legs were snapped, some were cut, clean cut, and we had some other. The feelings we had on that particular day were strange, to say the least. I had a very strange feeling about it. My daughter, Alan's wife, had strange feelings. I can't remember what your feeling was about it, Alan.
I was just shocked. I mean, the fact that we had sort of your typical cattle type mutilation. I mean, it was a deer in this case, but it's just like something you see on TV. And the fact that it was sitting right in that spot was no coincidence. I mean, that just, I remember I walked down, I think I was the first one to see it, and I, I just stopped dead in my tracks and I was like, oh my God. And I turned around, and my buddy Jesse was with me, and I was like, turn this video camera on and just go down there and tell me what you see. So he did, and he was pretty shocked too.
Well, I was going to ask about specifically these feelings. From the sounds of it, you don't necessarily let them scare you away. You're aware of
No.
it, that it's happening, but it's, I guess, something that you're just going to have to kind of get over and just keep trekking, right?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, for me, it's been about, this is what I've been chasing. I want answers. I want to know what's going on. I want to have encounters. I want to have interactions. So if something's happening, I'm going to it. I'm not running away. This doesn't scare me. This is why I do it. This is what I do it for.
and I've been a long time practitioner of meditation and other processes that have opened me up to other phenomena that like out of body experiences and a number of other things. So this doesn't spook me, it intrigues me. I think something's trying to contact us and saying, hey, we're here. And the fact that we are filming it is an interesting indication. So without letting the cat out of the bag, we decided after our initial kind of like holy crap, what is this about? We would come back on the next weekend and we'd bring another guy and we'd bring some equipment to measure, take some measurements around the mutilated carcass and set up a trail cam, and that's when the fun really began. So how much do you want us to reveal?
I probably wouldn't do too much more on it.
Well, hey, this would be a good cliffhanger. It's like check out
Exactly.
the Ozark UFO conference, and not only that, they get to meet you as well. And that also adds a whole new dimension to the information to hear about.
Yeah,
So,
we'll be telling the story in detail, and we'll have, photos from the scene and video and all kinds of other things as part of our presentation. So you'll get the whole experience in person.
I'll tell you one thing, we actually got captured on camera a creature, clear as a bell.
well, so let me
It's
ask you then one
never
more
been
question
seen
here.
before.
Will you mean you will be showing the footage at the Ozark?
Yes.
Oh wow. I'm excited now too. I'm glad I get to be there. So let me ask you then one more question, and then also while I'm doing that, I want to then open this up for Q&A, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. So everyone else watching, if you can please start submitting your questions now. As always, please leave or put the 3 asterisks before your question. Or if you are on Telegram right now, simply raise your hand and that will put you in my queue. And that's when I know you would like to talk to the guests. So while I ask him that question, I hope you take that opportunity to submit your questions. So what I wanted to ask, so often people have described that if there was there always things always just happening right outside of camera view, or cameras would die down, as you guys have mentioned, or things like as long as you have the camera on, nothing happens. The second you turn it off, that's when all that stuff, good stuff happens. Have you guys found that to be the same thing, or is it kind of like, do you think they might sense who you are and what you're there for, so they maybe sometimes don't mind you recording certain things or getting on camera?
We think that this is my opinion, that they approve whatever they is, and I have no explanation, is approving what we're doing, and it's allowing us to capture on film things that most people seem to not have the opportunity to do. I don't think we've never had a situation where we wanted to film something and it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, but we usually don't film what we think we're going to film. We go there to film, a Bigfoot coming through a portal, and instead we get some tiny little thing or something. So it's always a surprise. You never get what you really want, but we definitely have had success in getting things captured. And I think it is something to do with the fact that our approach and the way we're doing it and our intentions, and it's not to make $1 million and be the next hero of the world or whatever. We're just trying to understand and share the mystery and educate people on what's going on out there.
And make it okay for them to have their own experiences,
For sure.
and to talk about them, like the little creature. It wasn't that little that we captured on film in Wisconsin, the Beast of Bray Road. We were expecting something that was like 7 feet tall, and when it showed up small, that kind of blew our minds. That wasn't what I pictured it would be if we captured something, but it sure was quite interesting that something would sit there and stare at us and move around and let us shine lights in its eyes, and for like 15 minutes. It and we're talking and yelling, and Alan's all excited, and we got it on 2 cameras, not only 1 but 2, kind of verifying it wasn't a camera malfunction.
Mm.
So does that? I don't know if we're special in any way, but we certainly haven't. It seems like something's blessing us every time we go. We get stuff.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Well, thank you for, answering that part. So I think the first question I have is from Claudine G. And I think you guys, for the sake of asking a question, I'll ask it again. I know you went into it a little bit, but her question was, how can you open a portal? And I don't know if there's more pointers you might be able to give.
Well, I mean, I think for us it was sort of by accident. I mean, we set out to try to do something, but I don't know that we expected to succeed. So I'm not exactly sure what it was. I think it was sort of maybe a reward for, for what we'd done and what we'd shared. I don't know. What do you think, Ron?
I asked one of my colleagues the question, what if it was so easy for us to open a portal like this, other people must be doing it as well. And he replied back, yeah, and probably weaponizing it.
All right, thank you for that. So the other question is from Sonia McLear. She's asking, have you guys heard of Scott Nelson? And I've had Scott Nelson on before several times, actually, and I also have him speak at the conference. He's also, he and Ron Moorhead were the ones that Ron originally, I guess, attained somehow these, what he calls them, the Bigfoot sounds, and then Scott was the one that, using his background in the Navy, analyzed it. Anyway, the question is, have you heard of Scott Nelson and his team search with his parties in California, Sierra foothills? They have some amazing documentation as well. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Scott Nilsson. I know he analyzed the Sierra sounds. I've met with Ron Moorhead on a few occasions and heard him speak, and he talks about the analysis. I'm looking forward to meeting him. I've not met him before, so that's one of the people I'm excited to meet when we're in Arkansas.
So
yeah,
you mean Scott Nelson? We know Moorhead quite well.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's right. I feel so silly. Scott is also going to be a speaker there. Sorry, but
Yeah.
totally. Right. Okay, so the next one is from Breathe and Let Go. Says, do you think Bigfoot is part human? In regards to Sumerian scripts claiming our DNA was altered at some point.
For me, it was a possibility, but I think that possibility is a little bit less now, just from my experiences. Is it part human now? I don't think so. Was it part human at some point? It's maybe. I don't know.
I have no sense that it is in any way related to us genetically.
Is it just a feeling or a theory?
Well, part of it is that no real evidence has ever showed up that would validate that there is any. Nobody's ever come up with DNA evidence of anything they would attribute to something called Bigfoot that is legitimate, as far as I know.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, because that has been quite a this brouhaha about just constantly DNA, and each. It seemed like in the early 2000s, maybe my memory is a bit off now, but it seemed like there was constantly somebody claiming they shot Bigfoot, and they have some proof, and it's like after the first scam, second scam, after a while, you just kind of stop watching because it's either going to be somebody in a suit or some carcass of some animal that's already known, and I don't know, do you guys get frustrated about that?
I don't. We're not looking for footprints and hair and DNA. I mean, we're sort of beyond that now to having these contact experiences, and that's much more fulfilling and a whole lot less frustrating.
Yeah, there's a whole whole new kind of religiosity underway attached to aliens and UFOs and Bigfoot, mainly through contact experiences of one form or another, telepathic, quick glimpses that seem to be designed for you, that this has been going on forever. And it does point to some aspect of us that we normally don't have in touch with, or perhaps it's a lifting of the veil on a reality we don't normally get to experience, see, touch, feel, or encounter in any way. And that these things seem to be growing in frequency, and people are more readily sharing them. So this has emerged in the 21st century quite a bit, particularly around UFOs, I would say. You must have heard of that already, haven't you?
Which part?
The part that UFOs is kind of forming a religion. You know, the memes from the X-Files, I want to believe, and the truth is out there.
Right. Well, in my experience, well, I think you'll find that, I know we don't know each other very well, but for me, I see everything as one, and paranormal cryptids like Bigfoot and all these other things and UFOs, it's through my experience, it's an expression of the one and the same, but that's a whole nother conversation. And so, but what I was going to say is that regarding this religious approach to these different things, I find it that some people really find it interesting. They really love it and they get into the subject. And so for some reason, and it depends on from person to person, but it's not everybody, that they need a validation. And so they want someone else to believe. They want someone else to tell them, I see what you're seeing. It's like what you're doing, the time you're spending, it's not in vain, keep at it. And so, of course, then, if they don't get that, it turns into, well, fine, if you don't believe me, I'm going to be even more over the top with it. And so I found that it really kind of is based back down in the very most rudimentary of human emotions, is that the need for approval, because for my personal experience and many other people, that when they've had experience on their own, the last thing they need is someone else to validate it. They know what they've seen, they know what they've experienced, and it's like they don't need anyone else to tell them otherwise. And it's the very few that kind of really get frustrated that, oh God, I wish I could see what you saw. I wish I had the experience that you had. Only then does it turn more into this cult following. But that's just my opinion. Just over the years, that's what I'm kind of able to kind of basically break it down to.
Okay.
All right. So, the next question is actually from Paulie coming in from Telegram. Let me unmute him. Paulie, you unmuted, and you should be able to ask a question.
Hey guys, fascinating conversation. And I once met these guys called the Navajo Rangers, and they had a lot of similar stories from their experiences working out in the desert. And they mentioned that a lot of this stuff happens at, I guess what they call is the witching hour, which is like 2 or 3 in the morning. And they think it's because maybe the electromagnetic field is weaker when the sun's on the other side. So you guys are talking about hotspots. Like, do you think there's times where there's hotspot times? Something like that.
We've heard that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think our pattern doesn't. Usually, a lot of stuff has occurred in early evening darkness. Would you say, Alan?
Yeah, we don't, a lot of these times we're not necessarily out there at 2 o'clock in the morning. We might be out there at 9 or 10, the early evening, and we've had plenty of things happen. Now, if it intensifies as it gets later, I mean, I've definitely had that happen, but it's not been consistent pattern that I could say that for, absolute certainty.
The idea that there are places that are thinner to the other side goes way back in history. Many, Catholic saints and so on had their experiences, and they turned into they built cathedrals on these places that are thinner to the other side. And then there's this whole theory of ley lines, that there are these lines that crisscross the earth, and they're indications of hotspots as well. I haven't verified it, but it's interesting to think about.
Okay, let me see here. Polly, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah. I've also heard or maybe read reports of maybe Bigfoot experiencers, but instead of seeing it, it's like a psychic projection of an image or something in their consciousness or their view. Have you guys had any experience like that or ever heard of anything like that? If you know what I'm talking about, maybe not.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thanks for your questions, Polly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been a big part of my journey in the last year here. Is we brought in some psychic mediums, and they've shown me some things, and I've had some experiences with them that have really opened me up to that, not just possibility but the reality, and those are some of the most special contacts that I've actually had in my 13 years of doing Bigfoot encounters have been in the last year or so, with this type of interaction. I'm actually currently, we film everything we do, and I'm putting this together right now. My little film on my journey through this called Spiritual Bigfoot, where I do make contact in that way, and I'll have that available at some point, so we can share that with everyone and how that works and what process I went through and what that felt like.
Okay, I thought
So-
maybe Ron, you wanted to add. If not, that's all right.
I've had a profound visual sighting of some creature full-fledged integrated into the environment. It wasn't an illusion, and it was conscious. It was white. It was big, and it looked at me, and it came up a road and then turned around and went back. So that's my most profound direct visual contact experience. It was actually on my way to visit Ron Moorhead.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, I was also going to earlier this year. I was going to interview Ron, but then he was moving, and he was saying that it would be best to do it later on in the year. And I told him I have these Ozark interviews to get through, and then definitely going to have him on as well. So I guess the last question then before we finish up is from Higher Ways Woman asking, do you know about crystals being used to create electromagnetic fields, access in other worlds, astral travel by crystals? Who is experimenting with crystals like this?
One of our paranormal hotspots was at the board camp Crystal Mine, which is south where you are. Have you heard of it?
No, I have not.
It's a place that's.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm just going to deny you this whole day. So you say Crystal Mines?
Board camp Crystal Mine.
Right. Is it where you can go in person and you can mine crystals yourself?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Then I do. I'm sorry. I'm for some reason I'm just having a difficult time hearing you today. So please continue.
So there's a lot of activity associated with the crystals there, including levitating ones that they have on camera. And Alan had his own rock experience there, and they had profound visual experiences, and we had some crazy equipment experiences there, all associated with this crystal mine. So yeah, stuff is going on in connection with crystals there.
Well, and the things that happened at Tom Powell's house are exactly what you're talking about. I mean, we in our Paranormal Highway show, we're going to cover that in great detail with evidence to back it.
Yep.
All right. Well, so in conclusion, I wanted to, I guess, just leave the platform for each one of you to finish off with something that you would like to pretty much end the show with. I figured we'll start off with you, Ron, if you have something, or if you would like to go first.
I think these experiences, these contact experiences, these glimpses are available to everybody, and they're occurring more and more to people. Don't be afraid of them. I think they'll be transformational for you. And once you open up, you'll have more of these. And it's more like the world really is than the dull, boring workaday world that we've been told are the essence of who we are and what the world is. it's much more exciting and unusual, and they're growing in frequency. So open up and ask for contact. You'll probably get it.
Ellen?
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment. For me, the biggest block that I had that kept me from having these experiences was just my mind, my train of thought, where I was closed off and not open to. So be open to what happens if you are out there doing this kind of thing, and don't reject what happens to you. Just allow it to happen and enjoy it. I do have one, if it's okay, a quick plug before I take off.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, I just launched a new YouTube channel called National Paranormal Network, and we're trying to build this up. So please check that out. Subscribe. My feature documentary, The Back 80, is on there for free. You can watch that, and we've got a lot of other really cool videos and interviews. We just posted an interview with Nick Pope, unedited, where he talks about all kinds of things, including Bigfoot. So please check out National Paranormal Network on YouTube, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Also,
Ellen,
I guess
yeah,
we're
go
going to
ahead.
be screening our movie about Mario Woods' contact with the aliens out in the missile fields.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, I forget exactly which day, but yes, your movie will be screened during that time.
Yeah, it's a remarkable story of a contact with some alien presence and manipulation of, the electronics of the launch codes and stuff like that, which is big time powerful stuff for something to be doing.
Okay. Yeah, no, certainly. I think I have that. Did you send that link to me? I believe you did.
Probably because you said you had it.
Right. So also, Ellen, that link regarding that website, if you can send it to me, I can add it later on in the description of this as well. So then
That'd
that
be
way
great.
there'll be no mistakes about which site to go to. So, well,
Yeah.
thank you both. Thank you both very much. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you both. So let me just finish up with the audience here, and please don't hang up on me. So I certainly hope those of you watching found this intriguing enough to join us at the Ozark UFO conference in Eureka Springs in April 8th till 10th. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, if you would like to try your luck, any video leading up to the March 9th, if you can, in the description, put a comment with a hashtag Ozark 2022 and like the video. On the 9th, I will run an algorithm that picks a random winner, and you can win 2 tickets to the conference. So at least out of having to figure out how to get there and finding rooms to stay, you at least have the tickets in the bag. And again, in the description below, whatever the guest has sent to me, and I will update Alan's information as well. Check those out. And I hope you find more information or get more out of it if you did not during this interview. And so with that being said, again, thank you both, and thanks everyone else for watching, and I'll catch you next time.